What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors faces off against a television host who refuses to show basic respect? In just 45 seconds, Michael Strahan's smug dismissal of Denzel Washington's decades of achievement would lead to the most shocking walkout in morning television history. The studio lights were bright that morning on Good Morning America. Denzel Washington sat across from Michael Strahan, relaxed in his chair, wearing a sharp navy suit. He was there to talk about his latest film, a passion project he had been working on for years. The cameras were rolling, the audience was watching, and everything seemed normal at first. Strahan opened with what should have been a simple question. "So, Denzel, you've got another movie coming out. Tell us what makes this one different from all the others." There was something in his tone, something dismissive, like he was already bored before Denzel could even answer. But Denzel, being the professional he is, smiled politely and began to explain. "Well, this film is actually very personal to me. It's about a father trying to reconnect with his son after years apart. It explores themes of forgiveness, redemption," and Strahan cut him off mid-sentence. Right. So basically another drama. You do a lot of those, don't you?" The audience shifted uncomfortably. Denzel paused, his smile fading slightly. "I do films that mean something. Films that tell important stories." Strahan leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at his lips. Sure, but let me ask you something. Do you ever worry that maybe you're just doing the same thing over and over? I mean, how many serious movies can one guy make?" You could feel the temperature in the room drop. Denzel's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "I think storytelling is about connecting with people. If the story matters, it's worth telling." "Okay," but Strahan interrupted again, waving his hand dismissively. "Let's be honest here. When was the last time you did something actually fun, something people actually want to watch?" The disrespect was staggering. Here was Denzel Washington, a two-time Academy Award winner, a living legend who had given audiences some of the most powerful performances in cinema history, and he was being talked to like his work was irrelevant. Denzel took a slow breath. "People do want to watch meaningful cinema. That's why I do what I do." Strahan laughed, actually laughed. "Meaningful cinema, okay, look. I'm just saying not everyone wants to sit through 2 hours of you looking sad and contemplative. Maybe try a comedy once in a while, loosen up a little." The condescension was dripping from every word. Denzel sat forward slightly, his voice calm but firm. "I've done comedies, I've done action films, I've done Shakespeare. I've spent 40 years building a career based on excellence and integrity." 40 years, Strahan repeated, his tone mocking. "Exactly, 40 years of the same thing. Don't you think it's time to try something new, or are you just comfortable being predictable?" That word hung in the air. Predictable, said with such casual cruelty, as if Denzel's entire body of work could be reduced to one dismissive adjective. Denzel's expression hardened. "I don't think there's anything predictable about commitment to craft." Strahan wasn't backing down. He leaned forward, his voice taking on an edge. "Come on, Denzel, you're a smart guy. You know what I'm saying. Every interview you talk about the art, the meaning, the importance, but maybe, just maybe, you take yourself a little too seriously. Maybe that's why younger audiences don't really connect with your stuff anymore." The insult was blatant. Now, Strahan wasn't just questioning Denzel's work. He was questioning his relevance, his legacy, his place in modern cinema, and he was doing it with a smile on his face, like it was all just friendly banter. Denzel's voice dropped lower. "Younger audiences connect just fine with quality. They're smarter than you're giving them credit for." "Are they, though?" Strahan shot back. "Because the box office numbers tell a different story. Your last few films, they didn't exactly light the world on fire, did they?" This was crossing a line. Strahan was now openly mocking Denzel's recent work in front of millions of viewers with zero regard for professionalism or basic courtesy. Denzel sat perfectly still. Box office isn't the only measure of success. Strahan laughed again, that same dismissive chuckle. "Of course it isn't. That's what everyone says when their movies don't make money. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh here. I'm just being real. Maybe it's time to admit that your time has kind of passed." The studio went silent. The crew members looked at each other in disbelief. Even the cameras seemed to pause as if they couldn't believe what they were capturing. Denzel stared at Strahan for a long moment. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp, focused. My time has passed. It wasn't a question. It was him repeating the words, letting them sit there, exposing just how disrespectful they were. I mean, look, Strahan continued, apparently oblivious to the gravity of what he just said. You had a great run. No one's taking that away from you, but there's a new generation now. New actors, new stories, new energy. Maybe it's time to step aside and let them have their moment. You've had yours. Denzel's hands were folded in his lap. He hadn't raised his voice once. He hadn't lost his temper, but something had shifted in his demeanor. There was a finality to his stillness. Let me ask you something, Michael, Denzel said quietly. How long have you been doing this hosting? I mean, Strahan looked confused by the question. I don't know, several years. Why, several years, Denzel repeated. And in those several years, have you learned anything about respecting your guests? Strahan's smile faltered. Whoa, hey, I'm just having a conversation here. No, Denzel said, his voice still calm but with steel underneath. You're not having a conversation. You're performing. You're trying to get a reaction, trying to create a moment at my expense. That's not a conversation. That's disrespect. Strahan tried to recover. Come on, man, don't be so sensitive. I'm just asking questions, Denzel said slowly. Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're trying to tear down someone who spent their entire life building something meaningful. And for what? For ratings, for clicks. The audience was dead silent. Every eye was on Denzel. This wasn't the blow-up Strahan might have been hopping for. This was something more powerful. Quiet dignity in the face of disrespect. Strahan shifted in his seat, starting to realize he'd pushed too far. Look, if I offended you, if you offended me. Denzel's eyebrows raised slightly. There's no if about it. You invited me here supposedly to talk about my work, and instead you've spent the last several minutes dismissing my career, mocking my choices, and suggesting I'm past my prime. That's not journalism. That's not even entertainment. That's just rude. Strahan tried to laugh it off. I think you're taking this a little too personally. How else should I take it? Denzel asked. You've made it very personal. You've questioned my relevance, my talent, my connection with audiences. You've done everything except actually ask me about the film I came here to discuss. Well, we can talk about the film now if you want, Strahan offered, trying to steer things back on track. Denzel shook his head slowly. No, I don't think so, because I don't think you actually care about the film. I don't think you care about meaningful conversation at all. I think you care about creating drama and conflict because that's what you think makes good television. Strahan's face was reening. Now that's not fair. Denzel's voice had an edge now. You want to talk about fair. Is it fair to invite someone onto your show and then ambush them with insults? Is it fair to use your platform to belittle someone's life's work? I wasn't belittling. Yes, you were. Denzel cut him off the first time. He'd interrupted. You absolutely were. And you know what? I've been in this business long enough to recognize when someone is trying to make themselves look big by making someone else look small. That's what this is. Strahan was losing control of the interview now. Denzel, I really think you're overreacting. Overreacting, Denzel repeated. He looked directly into the camera, then back at Strahan. I'm reacting appropriately to being disrespected on national television. Nobody disrespected you. Strahan protested.